Hey, welcome to Clarksville Vibe the show. I am your host, Kevin Kennedy Jr. We're so glad that you made it to this episode. What an exciting time to be in Clarksville, and I promise you today's episode is going to be full of great content that you're going to find a lot of value in. A good friend of mine is joining us today. She has got her hands in all things that are positive and moving in the right direction in Clarksville, and has just been one of the pioneers of introducing Clarksvillians to new and engaging businesses for the last several years. She is not a native to Clarksville, which makes her story so much more interesting. The passion that she's found for this city and just her genuine desire to be a mom and also be a business owner and do all the things that she does, while at the same time building this great tribe of people who love local businesses in Clarksville. She is Miss Local Clarksville. That's her name. She would never say that of herself, but it's Kacie Bryant. Thank you so much for joining us today.
What an amazing introduction. I was not.
Well, it's all true.
I didn't pay him for that, by the way.
No, you did not pay me. It is all true. And it was all off the cuff. No, nothing scripted.
Wow.
So it's just, that's who you are.
Pretty impressive. Thank you.
I remember, so I moved back to Clarksville from Memphis, where I did my residency about 2012, 2013. And I remember there's an organization out of Memphis that is a lot like Local Clarksville, just specific to Memphis. And we were just kind of engulfed in it, and really everything that Choose 901 supported, we were kind of right there into it. And it was so exciting. And when Clarksville Marketplace came along, it was like, man, who is this? And I was so surprised that it was not someone that I knew. But I think that's what's been such a blessing to the city is this is you coming into town and just saying, we have a lot of great things to offer. So I want to let you tell the story. I don't need to tell your story much more, but tell us about Local Clarksville. Just softball pitch right off the top. If someone has never heard of it, what do you do and what is your mission?
Yeah. Well, let me start by the Choose 901 thing, because that's really crazy that you bring that up. When we had just started Clarksville Marketplace, I have a best friend that lives in Memphis.
Okay.
And so we were in Memphis, and there was this building that we were in, and Choose 901 was set up in the building, and they were selling t-shirts and hats and things for Memphis. And I was blown away. People were like fighting over t-shirts and hats and all of these things. And I'm like, man, how amazing is it that they're so passionate about their city, that they're fighting over Choose 901 hats, you know? And so that kind of inspired me coming back after, just getting started. It inspired me to, hey, Clarksville needs this too, because it didn't exist. And so just to kind of back up, we started Clarksville Marketplace, which is what it started as, just a friend, Tara Curtis, and I. She was a realtor, and I had moved here from California. I went back and forth from California to Mississippi pretty much my whole life. Wow. And so, Mississippi is very, they have their own culture, right? The Gulf Coast, it's like so many local seafood restaurants, and it's just it has its own feeling and vibe, and it's fun. And same with Northern California. There's a whole huge emphasis on supporting local businesses. And so when my husband and I moved here, I was like, where in the world did you bring me? This place stinks. Like there's no local business. It's all, you drive up and down Roma Rudolph, and it's all.
What year was that when you first came?
That was 2013. Okay. Yeah. And, but then I'm like, you know what? I'm one of those people that I'm not going to complain about something. I'm just going to, make the best of it. And so I was like, I'm stuck here, so I might as well make the best of it. And as I started digging in, I realized that there are a lot of really amazing local businesses in Clarksville. There's just nobody that's really highlighting them, or not one central place that you can go to find them. So Tara and I, who she is born and raised Clarksville, we started just doing it for free. We just went to local businesses and told their stories. And it was funny because as we first got started, they would be like, no soliciting, like, don't come in my business. Who are you? What are you trying to sell me? But then as we got more awareness for what we were doing and recognition, people would be like, oh, you're Clarksville Marketplace. Come here. Let me show you how I make donuts, or, this is my wife, or this is how we do it. And they would be so excited to see us. And so it got easier, and it just took off the first couple years that we did it. It was amazing to see. Yeah.
And it was, there's been so many changes in social media. Every year you turn around and it's just a different world that existed. But in those years there was, I think, the creation of groups and pages that maybe weren't necessarily a business, but that's when people started connecting outside of their maybe social circles, and then they started to find special interest, and that's where Facebook and Instagram to a certain degree has really found its footing is connecting people who are interested in the same things. You still get on there to see people that you actually know and have some social interaction with, but a big part of it now is engaging in your interest. And so when you found that niche of being able to say, hey, we want to highlight local businesses and we want to, bring some spotlight to that. Well, naturally, on the heels of places like Memphis and Northern California and Southern Mississippi or wherever it was just kind of a cultural phenomenon. And you were one of the pioneers that helped shape that here, because I've been here forever and I have known of the places that really were staples in this community. Johnny's Big Burger, Moss's Cafe, Red's Bakery, which is not in existence anymore, but they've always been there. It's just to someone who didn't have a way to connect with them. Unless you knew someone who was generations deep, you would drive right on past these places. Right. And so you saw that opportunity and just kind of created something and filled a niche. And, Clarksville is better for it, for sure. I think that's amazing. The other thing that I think is really important for you to be able to share is I know this because we've chatted about it. And I know this because you've said things to me unprompted. And I can really hear your character and your heart in it, but you really have no desire for one business to be more successful than another or to spotlight this industry over another. Really, your entire platform is you just want to see everyone get exposure to all the positive things and the people that are in Clarksville and give awareness to the contributions that everyone is making to make this place such a great place to live. Yeah.
Even in the introduction, you said positive, and that was just like that warmed my heart, because I can tell you social media can be such a great place, but it can also be a very terrible place. Yeah. And we were very adamant from the very beginning that our platform was going to be positive. And even if people had a bad experience at a store or a boutique or a restaurant, we weren't going to, shout from the rooftops how terrible we were. We were going to encourage people to talk to the owners. Sure. Because really, bashing a business owner on social media doesn't solve anything. It doesn't help anything. And so
it's a great way to get engagement.
Yes.
But it's just not a profitable way for our spirit and our soul to engage in that type of community.
Right. Yeah. We had a lady that came on when we first, and we called her Negative Nancy. And because everything that we posted, no matter how positive our post was, she had something negative to say. But it was crazy because we could take that negative. We got really good at taking that and turning it into positive. Sure. And then nobody wanted to do any negative things anymore. So there's very rarely do we get any negativity on our page, which is really nice.
Yeah, it is really nice. Yeah. And it's very nice that it's not a, obviously there's different groups and everyone has a different purpose, but there's not a place for someone to just where Local Clarksville is promoting someone's anger. It may happen on the page indirectly and you spin it into something positive, but it's not like someone is bringing this and you're saying, oh, well, we should know this about this business, that someone did have a negative experience. Because it's going to happen in every local business. And if we don't give the owners the opportunity to correct it, then we've really not given them a fair due, right? Yes. Because things happen and, everyone's trying their best. Everyone's wanting to serve people. I genuinely don't believe that any significant majority of people, or even in the minority, are out to provide poor service.
No.
I've not talked to anyone that does that.
It's not a great way to. No.
You may be looking for profit, but good service is the way to get there.
Yeah. And one thing that we found is that businesses, people that are really good at something, so if they're really good at making tables, or they're really good at baking brownies, or whatever they're really good at, a lot of times they're not good at the business part.
Sure.
And so
dentist included. Yeah. We don't know anything. We spent our entire undergraduate lives in a chemistry lab, and then we went into a dental lab and put drills on plastic teeth for 4 years, and then all of a sudden we're out here saying, you need an employee ID number or employer ID number. What is that?
Yeah.
Where do I get that?
Right.
What do you mean? I've got to report every new employee to the state. How do I do that? Why would I have to do that? You don't have any answers to these questions, which is great to bring up because I feel like you've also provided that niche. Because I've seen very real practical content that you've spent some time generating of says, what do we do if we want to start a business legitimately? What are some basic steps that you can do to create an entity, choose what kind of entity you want to have, and then actually get going and have it at a separate bank account? And some of these practical things that you're right, some, service people, artisans, craftsmen, bakers may not have the knowledge base to do that. And I say that I was lumped right into it, right?
Right. Most of them don't. Yeah.
No.
Yep. That's where the business project came from. So that was as we started building relationships with this business owners. That's what we discovered. And people were bashing them online for not doing certain things. And we're like, okay, so now we see a need there to create, education for business owners, because a lot of them, like I said, they're really good at what they do, and we want them to be able to do what they're really good at.
Right.
And so.
Well, and when you're looking at a small business that's, let's say it's family operated, you've got one main operator in the family and maybe 2 or 3 people that help in the family, and let's say less than 10 employees. The reality is that business doesn't have a lot of discretionary cash to be able to invest in consistent expert help in certain areas, in legal advice, in HR advice, in technology advice, or, privacy, just even having the ability to, store credit card information it's a big deal, and you've got to do it correctly. And if you don't have the discretionary cash or the revenue generating in order to be able to get the advice and, pay for it, you're oftentimes just winging it. And, so for you to see that niche and, provide some practical tools, I think is great. So tell us about the business project. Is that an initiative of Local Clarksville? Is that separate from Local Clarksville, or this is just Kacie Bryant taking on the world and, enlisting some help along the way? And,
it is a DBA of Local Clarksville.
Yeah, cool.
Like they kind of go hand in hand. And it's a website. We now have a podcast with John Crespo, the Business Project podcast, and it's so fun. And we just go over all the basics of business. We go over accounting, we go over branding, creating a logo, all the things that businesses that are just getting started have to figure out on their own. And that way they're not looking 100 different places, and they can do things correctly from the beginning. And then they get to focus on the things that they're really good at and offer great service to us here in Clarksville.
When I was starting my dental practice, there's incidentally an online social media group that is, specifically for dentists who are creating their first practice from scratch, right? And that one source of information was so critical, because you could kind of go in and search, or you could look at the podcast history and pick a topic and really dive into it. And then you have the ability to connect with other people who maybe commented on it or said that they had some good experience. So utilizing social media, to me, social media is amoral. It's neither good nor bad. It's just how we use it.
Right.
But when we're using it for positive good, which I think you're doing, I think it just adds so much value, not only for our community, but these families, because these families are the ones that are relying on their business to have the accounting that's done correctly, so that they know what they have available to pay their personal bills, buy Christmas presents, donate to this league or that league, or whatever it is. But if your books are not squared up and they're not tight, you don't know what money goes where and how much you have available to be able to donate. And, your heart drives things, but your mind should probably be driving things. It just gets to be a real challenge.
Yeah.
So how'd you connect with John Crespo? You said he was your guest host on that podcast there that you have.
Yeah, I really don't know, honestly, where we met. I think we've just
I don't know where I met you. It just happened.
I know. Where did? I don't know. I feel like, honestly, he's one of us. I feel like there's those of us, and I do really appreciate what you're doing too, just the positivity. And I think that you've always just got a smile on your face, and you're genuinely out to help people. And John's one of those people. We are in the same circles, and I think it wasn't like I saw him and I was like, I want to do a podcast with you. It just kind of slowly developed over time, because we think the same, and we have the same mentality, and we want to be positive, and we just want to help people. And so it was naturally a good fit. Yeah.
And so can people find your podcast, all the platforms, just Google
Apple
it, Spotify it, Apple it, whatever it is.
Yeah. Apple Podcast,
that's awesome.
YouTube, and Spotify.
I love that. Yeah, that's exciting. So, Local Clarksville now, I want to give you an opportunity, as things have grown, I've seen this from a distance, but it looks like you have a team. And
We do.
When I look at a team, I see a payroll, and I know that payroll is like, hey, we've done some really good things to be able to grow this business into a place where we can support other people. And so I want to hear some of those wins. So my question to you is there a business, even from back in the Clarksville marketplace days, where you were just like, wow, we got to be a small but a fun part of seeing this business kind of come to fruition, and now has this just something that they could have a lot to be proud of?
Yeah, I can't say specifically of a business that I saw. This is my third or fourth business. Yeah. So I think that's what I love to do is and I fought it. People would tell me, you're just a starter. Like, you like to start businesses. And I fought that forever because I'm like, no, I like business. But now I've kind of, I guess, embraced it that yes, I do. Sure. I think that my strength is finding a niche, finding a problem that needs to be solved, and then putting all the pieces together and building a team to solve it. Yeah. And so I think that's what Local Clarksville has become. And I don't know what the future holds for us. I know people were really upset. A lot of businesses, and you and I have talked about this, they were really upset when we decided to monetize our platform and turn it into a business. But I don't know of any other business or organization that can succeed for a long time without having some sort of income.
Sure. It's unsustainable.
Yeah.
And we had the conversation. It's not fair to your family.
It's not.
You're dedicating tremendous amount of time and energy and mental space of connecting with the business. When can I come visit? Creating the content, pushing the content, managing the comments. And all of us have this, decision that we have to make of where are we investing our time and our energy. And when we invest it into something, it's not being invested into something else. And so when you're visiting, a restaurant for the first time, you're not taking your kids to a different place, to a park during that time. And so being able to recognize if I want to continue providing great content, I need people to help me do this so that I can still make the choices in my personal life that are really important to me. And, not everyone does that for free. And, it is what it is. And we need to embrace that because there are no other entities that come to my dental practice and say, hey, we want to promote you for free. That's not a normal thing to do. Right. We can do that for fun and it is what it is. But when it gets to a place where it's a legitimate organization that has a tremendous amount of respect, has a tremendous amount of workload that comes along with the back end of all of these things. As a business owner, I expect to compensate you for that. If your exposure is great and, which I believe in your product and all of those things line up, then I want the access to your great product. So every business matures and gets there. And, I think you found over time that people still believe in Local Clarksville and still believe in what you're doing. And people will still continue to believe in it because it's been now, almost 10 years, 5 for, yes. Okay. Well, yeah, I feel like it's been 10. It's been 10 since you were in Memphis. Yeah. Since you were there.
Yeah.
But still it's a sustaining organization. It is not just a flash in the night. And, you mentioned this kind of pioneering spirit that you have, and it's really a gift. And I think the fact that you've learned to embrace it is very special. I've got a few other friends who are pioneers, and from the outside looking in, you look at them and you're like, man, they start a lot of stuff, but they don't do it very long. Yeah. And over time, I've learned that's actually such a gift because the amount of courage that it takes to be laying in bed and have this idea and then say, I think I can create that. What does that look like? And overcome the fear of, is anyone going to listen? Am I going to put my foot in my mouth? What is everyone else going to think? And then just do it, because as many people have the gift of being able to pioneer and create something, there are other people who are sustainers.
Yes.
And they don't have the gift to create something from nothing, but they definitely have the gift to catch a vision, to latch onto it, and then to engage it and push it into the next place and probably take it well beyond whatever you could do, because that's just not your gift,
right.
And so I think you embracing that as time goes on is one of those personal development notches that makes your life more valuable, and you can make more contributions when you're sticking to the things that you really are gifted in.
Right. And you can find people that complement you really well, because I love how you said that I feel like there are people that are really good at starting things and there are people that are really good at maintaining things. And I can maintain something, but I don't enjoy it. And so having the opportunity, the business that I sold in California is still running. I went and visited. Wow. I sold it 8 years ago. That's and it's really still special. Running and thriving and doing even better than it did when I sold it. Yeah. So,
and when the first generation creator starts to lose energy in whatever the entity is, then the value of that goes down. Not so much in a financial sense, but just in the quality of the service and the product that you're able to produce, whether that's consulting, whether that's an actual product, whatever it is. And so, having someone who can catch on to the vision and then continue to grow it from there, it's really powerful.
Yeah. I want to be clear though. I don't have any like plans to sell Local
No,
Clarksville
not
or
at all.
anything.
Yeah. Until somebody
We're not
makes you an
going
awesome
anywhere.
offer.
Yeah.
And if that ever came about, I have no doubt there would be something that is just as awesome as Local Clarksville that would follow right behind it. Yeah, we went off the rails on that a little bit, but Local Clarksville is here to stay. You can find that on all kinds of social platforms as well. And so we would definitely recommend anyone who's listening or watching, definitely go find that if you haven't already. Well, I know that the people who are pioneers, who are starters, you don't create stuff just from nowhere. Like you take inspiration from a lot of places that helps you create these ideas. So I'm curious if you have any, books or, content producers that you kind of rely on to help give you some vision so that you can operate in your gifts and that you can, create new ththings.
I think that money is a big challenge for people, whether it be individuals or businesses. If you ask any business, I guarantee, or if you say you take a couple businesses and you ask them, what's the one thing you need? I guarantee you their number one answer will be money or more customers, which is money, right? Yes. Yeah. So I think that there's a couple books. I don't follow Dave Ramsey like to a T, 100% everything that he says, but I think that he has some really amazing concepts that has personally changed my life and the way that we live. And Profit First is another really great one for business owners. Have you read Profit First? I have not, but I have. I've listened to podcasts here or there about it, so I think I've picked up some of the principles. But if you remember anything from the book that you feel like is powerful, I'd love for you to share it. Yeah, the one thing that I love, so they recommend that you do what's the theme of it? 7. Yeah, it's great. It's basically paying yourself first and creating a budget for your business. And people think of budget as bad, but it's not bad. It's just telling your money where to go, like Dave Ramsey says, right? So they have you create like 7 different bank accounts. I don't have 7, but we do have a couple of different ones. Sure. And so you're basically all the money that comes in, you're assigning a percentage to it. So a percentage goes to your OpEx, your operating expenses. A percentage goes to your savings and taxes, and then your profit. And this is amazing because it helps you fine tune. It's almost like when you have a goal, right? Like you have this thing that you're shooting at with a target with the middle. If you're shooting at a goal, you're more likely to get there. Yeah. But if you're like nothing there and you're just shooting in the air, you're never going to get even close to that, right? So this is kind of, even if you don't do it 100% or exactly every time, it is better than you would be doing it if you weren't doing it. Yeah. But it basically makes the point that as a business owner, you need to pay yourself first. Otherwise, you're going to lose motivation and you're not going to have fun anymore. And that's just all part of and you'll lose your business. And you'll lose some employees because you haven't maybe dedicated the resources, and then an emergency pops up or COVID hits or something happens that is unexpected, and you need to either replace or repair a piece of equipment. And having the foresight of the organization to have all these accounts and know what these dollars are dedicated for. That I didn't know that principle, and that's been really helpful for me in my business as it's growing, because if you can get ahead of some of your growth curve, and then that, okay, I have set this up in a way where I can potentially take this next step and really take some risk here, because personally at home, we'll be able to pay our bills. We've managed that. We figured out how revenue works with that. But we can also now know that we can spend money in marketing here. I can say yes to these things, and unfortunately I might have to say no to these things, or I can trim this. But if you don't have a great understanding of it, then really you're limiting what you can provide as a service to the community, because it's just kind of all up in the air and you don't know what you're doing. Yeah. But I have heard that's a fantastic book. So Profit First is the name of that. I don't know who wrote it, sadly to say, but it's a really good book. That's the world we live in. Like if you know 1 or 2 things about it, you can find it really fast. Yeah, that's true. I'm sure you write profit in Amazon and it'll tell you the second word of it. Yeah. That's exciting. And Dave Ramsey, obviously great following, and I kind of subscribe to some of his things just like you do. It's not 100% to the T. Not everything works for me and my family, but I think he's got great information that helps a lot of people in very real ways and gives them some good organization and understanding of how to make money work for them instead of relentlessly chasing money and just having this obsession with how do I get to the next
pay period? How do I get to the next this or that? Giving some goals and allowing money to work for you is a great place to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you mentioned, and I feel like you got to give a shout out, but I asked you who some of your supporters were, who some of the people that are just, you've been cheering you on from the back, and you've told me this 2 or 3 times, so I know it's true. You always mention your husband, who never wants to be mentioned,
No.
who never wants to be seen. He is in the background just doing his deal, but you got to tell us a little bit about, how, I guess the question is, how is, for people who are married and operating businesses, and as we were discussing before, you're always making a decision between this or this. Is it marriage right now, or is it parenting, or is it parenting, or is it the business? Is it this or that? How important is it to have someone as supportive as he's been to you in your corner?
Yeah. So he thinks I'm crazy. He
You
really
might
does.
be.
Yes, he thinks I'm crazy. But I tell him all the time, you knew what you were getting into
That's
when
right.
you married me. Like, I wasn't hiding it when we started dating. So
This is not a revelation.
yeah. But he has been absolutely amazing from the very beginning. He supports all my crazy ideas. Sometimes he tells me, you're an idiot and that's a dumb idea, and I think you need to rethink that. He's always there to listen. And even, when I started my second business, which was the one that I sold in California that did really well, I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. We had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And our 1-year-old, Colt, Colt, he had really bad ear infections, and he would scream and scream and scream and scream and scream. We didn't know what was wrong with him, and for hours every night. And so he would be at work all day, and then he would come home to a screaming baby and a 3-year-old. And I would be like, peace out, have fun with dinner and taking care of the kids. And then I would go run my gym and do training and, all of that. And so, but he never complained. He just did it. And he's like, this is what I got to do. And I think that, I think that, like we had talked about, there's 2 different kinds of people. I think when it comes to business, there's 2 different kinds of people too. There's people that want to work hourly and that, have kind of the employee mindset. And then there's people that are business owners and are like, I'm going to do everything I have to do. And I think that it's really good to have a balance of both of those. Mm-hmm. Like, we need that person in our life, right? To say,
we need some stability.
To say, no, you cannot work 42 hours without sleep. You have to take a break and eat some lunch or go to the bathroom. Yeah. And so he's just been that person in my life, and it's been really amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Adani and I have been married 15 years. And to have someone, there's been a few really, really big decisions that, we've had to make career-wise over that time period. And, I laugh because I usually take her advice 6 months too late. It's kind of what it is like. She's looking at it from the outside in and be like, you should do this, right? And I'm like, no, but it doesn't make sense. You don't really get the full picture of this and that, but then when we take that leap, she's already processed it 6 months or a year before that. And she's like, why did you wait so long? You could do this, right? But then when you take the leap, now you're taking on a whole new, just emotional distress, waking up in the middle of the night, making notes on, I'd make notes in my phone, try to go back to sleep and things like that. But she's just always been so understanding of it. And, we're in a season now with a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old at home who are in activities and doing things and this and that. And to have someone who says, hey, if you need to stay late today, stay late today. It's unbelievable. Just that level of, whatever I needed to do for you in the moment, which is, what McLean's provided for you, it's just such a gift. And I certainly couldn't do it without her. And it doesn't mean that you need to have an extra person. You need to have a spouse to run a business. That's not what we're saying at all. I think it's just, if you have one and they're a blessing to you, make sure they know about it.
You appreciate them. Yeah. Let them know that you appreciate them.
Let them know that.
Yes.
Well, I do ask people, if we had one big message for today, what's the message? What do you want the people of Clarksville to hear about you, about local Clarksville, about the things that you have going on? And I'm going to read what you wrote because I think this is powerful. And, I've mentioned it before, but this is what you said. We don't need to stomp on each other to get to the top. We can do it together. And I think that's really a true testament to who you are as a person. Local Clarksville doesn't intend to circumvent and stomp on another organization in town that connects businesses together or connects business leaders together. When you do your mingle with local events, it's not intended to take away from another event. This is a big town. It's a growing town. we can just add value into it in different places. And personally, I can say it, we sat down with you 6 or 8 months ago and said, hey, I think I want to do a podcast. And there was not even a flinch of you saying, that sounds awesome. Like, you should do it. There's no question. Absolutely. What can I do to help? And, I think I was nervous to tell you because I didn't want you to feel like we were trying to creep our way into, local Clarksville's market or business niche. And that wasn't our intention at all, but it wasn't even a flinch. Just like, yes, absolutely. This town can have more value. And so I know that's your heart, but I want to give you that opportunity to share it too. Because you said, we don't need to stomp on each other to get to the top. We can do it together.
Yeah, I feel very passionate about that. And there's been times, like, just to be completely honest, when you came to me about that, my first reaction, I think our first reaction as humans is like, oh, really? But then I want to live, like, I really genuinely feel that way. And so I want to live an example of that. I want to be an example of that. And I personally felt a lot of starting Local Clarksville. I think I ruffled some feathers with some organizations in town that were supposed to be providing things that weren't doing it. And I mean, I think that it just helps us rise to another level also when people come in and they're like, hey, super excited and fresh ideas, and it just challenges us to be better. And so I think that that's really important to me. Knowing how I felt coming into the industry, it's really important to me. There's been several other ones. I think Clarksville Messenger is another one that I can think of, but there's been several other ones that have started, and I never want to like bash you on the head. I always want to be, what can we do to work together and to be supportive of each other? Because like you said, I don't think that we have to, like, you rising to the top doesn't mean that you're stepping on me to get there.
Not
like, let's
all.
do it together.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I'm going to move into the lightning round, which I didn't prepare you for. I don't ever prepare anybody for it, and they always just laugh. What am I getting into? But I do have one question before we get to the lightning round. This is just a fun one, but I see that you have a pet pig. Mm-hmm. So
Joy.
Joy's her name. My sister was the animal lover in our family, and she was the youngest of 3 siblings. I grew up on a horse farm. My grandfather was a big animal person, had all kinds of different animals, and my dad, to some extent, has had crazy animals. We have had a pig before at her request, and I don't know that I really wanted anything to do with that thing, but I'm. Was this your idea? Is this a kid's idea? How'd that come about?
She's a little crazy.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, I always wanted a pig. I always wanted a pet pig. Yeah, I don't know why. I just always have.
Do you feel like that's the craziest pet you've ever had?
We had a bearded dragon. That was a really cool pet. Lots of dogs, cats. Yeah, probably the craziest one I've ever had. Yeah.
My sister had a zebra.
Really?
100% true.
That is really crazy.
And in fact, I think I was probably 21, 22, somewhere around there. So that made her like 12, 13-ish, still like that, young age where
like
you'll just
pony.
make outlandish requests. And on a horse farm, it wasn't that outlandish. So, it's like when your 12-year-old daughter asks for a zebra, what do, Dad? Get her a zebra, right? What in the world? But the funniest thing about that story is I just started dating Nadanya, and she's not from here. Like, she didn't know my family at all. And it's like,
knowing your dad, actually, I'm not surprised.
No, not at all. You wouldn't be surprised at all. But now imagine taking this girl who you've started dating up to your house, and she's like, oh, you live on a horse farm. Interesting. I've never been on a horse farm. You have a zebra? How did this come about? And then it's like you're starting to untangle all of your family history. Well, let me just tell you, whatever she asks for, she gets. Whatever I ask for, it's a no. And I got to go throw hay to go feed this zebra. Yeah. So family pets, sidetracked, off the rails. Funny. All right, lightning round. Here we go. What is your go-to dish if you are hosting a dinner party at your house?
My husband barbecues.
Nice.
Yes.
Husband
He's
to the
really
rescue.
good at barbecuing. Yes.
All right. If you can book a trip outside the U.S. for a week, do you have one place that's at the top of your list?
Outside of the U.S.?
Outside of the U.S.
I don't know if I'd want to go outside of the U.S. right now.
Really?
Honestly.
Oh, I can't wait to get outside the U.S.
I would do Lake Tahoe. That's inside the U.S.
It
I love
is.
that place.
It feels like it's outside the U.S. to us all the way across the country in Tennessee.
Yeah.
But that is on my list too. All right. If you could start a restaurant in Clarksville, what would be the theme?
A restaurant in Clarksville. Actually, we already have an idea for a restaurant in
Awesome.
Clarksville.
Well, I'll let you keep it to yourself then. That's the creator and the pioneer, right?
I've already got a business for every industry
everything.
in my brain. Yeah.
That's hilarious. All right. Do you have a favorite sitcom as from your childhood or from your teenage years?
Favorite sitcom.
Or-
I stink at movies and at TV shows.
Just wasn't your thing.
Friends, I guess,
Yeah.
but that was in college. We
Yeah.
watched
Oh,
all the
Friends.
reruns.
Yeah. That's a good one though.
Yeah.
That's kind of our generation. Yeah, Friends was a staple for a really long time. And
Either-
it's still pretty funny. It's not as easily accessible. I don't know where you would watch it right now, but some of it was really funny.
Yes. And I think people were either Seinfeld or Friends. Like you were
Yes.
one or the other.
Yeah,
And
they were around that same time. Well, that's
Yeah.
fine. Well, Kacie, thanks so much for taking the time.
that was
to
easy.
jump on.
I
It
was
really
expecting
was
some hard
easy.
questions.
Oh no, this is we're really just about telling your story. And once again, thanks for giving your full self and your gifts to this community. We're better because of it. I think Local Clarksville has connected so many people, both fifth generation natives like myself, to people who just moved here, whether it's a choice of a transition across the country because this is the best place to live in America, or whether it is a PCS to this area. Local Clarksville is really one of the main places that you go to first to get the real character and feeling of this community. And so I tell you thanks. As a native. I'm glad that we have it.
Thank you.
If you have made it to the end of this episode, hey, thank you so much. I know that Kacie's story has been really intriguing and engaging to you. So make sure to go find Local Clarksville right now. It's going to continue to add value in so many different corners and sectors of our community. Make sure you go ahead and follow, leave some comments on some posts that helps other people see what she's doing as well. Make sure you find that podcast that she mentioned with her and John Crespo. Go ahead and subscribe to that, like it, engage it, however you can. I'm telling you, one of the ways that you can help these online digital platforms is just by doing the things that these platforms and hosts want you to do. They like, subscribe, leave comments, things like that. It really helps those platforms be able to advance their message, advance their product, and get it in front of the eyes of more and more people. Well, hey, thanks for joining Clarksville Vibe the Show. We will see you on the next episode.